Hello everyone, here we go with another Godzilla review, and this time we're taking a look at the 26th film in the franchise, the third Millennium Era film, 2001's Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, which is probably the most epic title in all Godzilla movie history to date. What is it in Japanese? Gojira Mosura Kingu Ghidorah Daikaiju Sokogeki, or something like that. Most people, though, just call it GMK, so that's what I'm gonna do. Like the last two Millennium films, this one is a direct sequel to the original 1954 film. I do think it's kind of funny that these movies came out one year after another, and yet each one completely ignores its predecessor's existence. Hey, here's what really happened after Godzilla attacked Tokyo in 1954. No, this is what happened after Godzilla attacked Tokyo. No, this is what really happened. On the human side, this movie centers around Yuri, a young reporter with a low-budget docudrama crew who wants to film a serious, high-quality show on monsters. As they're filming this program, monsters actually start to surface in various locations. Yuri receives an ancient book that mentions these specific locations in connection with a trio of guardian monsters, Baragon, Mothra, and Ghidorah, sacred beings who want to protect the Earth, and Yuri interviews a mysterious old man who prophesies that Godzilla is returning to attack Japan, and Ghidorah must be summoned to fight him. The storyline for this one goes in more of a paranormal or mystical direction, which, honestly, is something I'm generally not into. Anytime a Godzilla movie goes into that territory, it's more difficult for me to stay engaged. However, with GMK being kind of a morality tale, I can see how it works. There's a theme throughout of atonement, that Japan needs to atone for what its soldiers did in World War II. Godzilla is a vengeful being made up of the souls of the dead who suffered in the so-called Pacific conflict, and he's coming back to destroy Japan, which has prospered in the decades after the war. There's also a theme that the youth have forgotten or are ignorant of the past and have become disrespectful toward it. And it's not just the young people, the government and military leaders are also shown to be overconfident and dismissive. The guardian monsters aren't really coming to defend Japan the nation, but to defend their own natural geographical homeland against Godzilla's destructive force. And they aren't really attacking cities, destruction just happens as they come out of hibernation. And it just so happens that those who get in the way are irresponsible or destructive young people, or tourists. So, in a sense, it's like the guardian monsters are enacting a form of divine retribution. I guess. None of this is stuff that I fully understood as I watched the movie the first time. I had to think about it, and then go back and rewatch certain parts. So clearly this movie goes in its own direction. It has a little more depth than the previous two, and takes on some Ishiro Honda-like social commentary. I think the focus on the human element is one of the movie's biggest strengths. There are a lot of characters, as usual, who appear marginally in one or a couple of scenes, but for the most part the story sticks with Yuri, the tenacious reporter who comes to believe in the legend behind the monsters, and her father, a naval commander with his own Godzilla-related backstory, who has enough to worry about with the monsters approaching Japan without having to be concerned about his daughter's welfare as she throws herself into danger pursuing the story. Father-daughter relationships like this seem to be a popular bond in the franchise. I'm thinking Terror of Mechagodzilla and Godzilla vs. Biollante, and I really think it helps emotionally ground the movie and keep the human side focused. As for the monsters, we only get brief glimpses of them for the first part of the movie, which is surprising in this franchise. The movie teases us with hints of Godzilla for 38 minutes before he finally makes his first full appearance, which frankly isn't one of my favorite of his grand entrances. It seems a little goofy. Godzilla looks quite different than he did in the last two movies. The proportions have changed. He seems to have a longer neck, shorter arms. His head seems a little more stooped. He has a squared snout like a crocodile. What really throws me off are the milky eyes. It's like Godzilla's got a severe case of cataracts. Spooky. I don't love the suit, but keeping in mind that Godzilla is definitely the bad guy here, and this is a rare occasion when he seems to target specific individuals, this mean-looking design is a lot more appropriate than some of his past looks. I like the new and improved atomic breath. It's bluish again, and the humming of the slow wind-up is a nice touch. The first time we see him use it is a cool scene. His strike has all the characteristics of an atomic blast, complete with mushroom cloud. Never seen it done that way before. The effects are really good too. Godzilla directs his atomic breath almost like a laser pointer or a flamethrower here. We haven't seen anything quite like that before either. They do a nice job conveying the immensity of Godzilla's size and weight, too. His roar can break glass, and the ground quakes as he lumbers along. They don't always include that detail. The second kaiju we see, actually the first one we see fully, is Baragon, who, poor guy, is the only kaiju who got his name left out of that awesome title. And yet he seems to have the most screen time, at least in the first half. I think they did a pretty good job with Baragon's suit. I admit I don't know Baragon that well. I think I've only seen him in 1968's Destroy All Monsters. I haven't seen his debut movie, Frankenstein Conquers the World. He's kind of on the cute side with his floppy ears and waddly walk. I found it very amusing, by the way, how people in the movie repeatedly mistake Baragon for Godzilla, like they see the big dinosaur monster and just jump to the conclusion that it's Godzilla. Why not? I bet some people watching the movie did the same thing. Mothra is the only one of the four kaiju not played by a stuntman in a suit. This is a less fuzzy or furry version of Mothra than we've seen in the past, with more of an insect shape about the body. It's interesting how the wings seem to develop as they unfurl out of the cocoon. Her appearance is accompanied by ethereal singing from unseen feminine voices. It's not exactly Yuji Koseki's Mothra song, but I feel like there's a harmonic resemblance, kind of. Mothra and Ghidorah are both mostly absent for the first half, which is a little bit surprising in a movie titled Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, but it builds up to their entrances, especially Ghidorah's. It's such an unusual twist to have Ghidorah be the good guy. I almost can't believe it. He's been the arch-nemesis so many times. In the ancient text, King Ghidorah is actually described as an 8-headed dragon. I was kinda hoping to see that, but it didn't happen. Oh well. As for the big battle, which takes up about the last third of the movie, as most of them do, it occurs at night, as most of them do. If you find that too dark, just wait until the fight moves underwater. Good luck discerning what's going on then. The fight goes in stages. The Godzilla vs. Mothra fight is a little slower paced. There's a nice emphasis placed on the wind generated by the flapping of her wings. Good attention to detail. This part's kind of funny though. Seems like she just sprayed rocks at him. The Godzilla vs. Ghidorah fight is the big one. Ghidorah, who doesn't have a royal title at first, arrives on the scene in a dramatic cloud of lightning. He's a little weaker than he has been in other entries, since he's younger, not fully developed, therefore he doesn't pose as great a threat to Godzilla. He is a little more defeatable. Okay, at a certain point, things got a little confusing for me, as they so often do in the big fight scenes, where there's a lot going on, and a lot that I'm supposed to infer about what the monsters are doing, since they can't just turn to the camera and say, "I'm now going to hit him with a move I've recently developed I call the nuclear pulse." Anyway, here's what I think happened. This is going to be slightly spoilery, so if you don't want to hear it, skip ahead to this time. Mothra absorbs Godzilla's atomic blast and transforms into gold dust. Gold mist! I missed you! Which transfers over to Ghidorah, who absorbs the dust and levels up. Now he's King Ghidorah. Bigger, brighter, more awe-inspiring. This is the movie's biggest moment, I'd say. This is definitely a monster teamwork movie, where Godzilla is the only one not on the team. Mothra sacrifices herself, not for the first time, not for the last time, and her power transfers over to King Ghidorah, and then all the Guardian monsters join forces spiritually in the final battle. I think there's a lot I just have to accept here. And hey, you know what's pretty nifty? This is the first time we go inside Godzilla, like literally physically take a journey down his gullet. I don't know if it's brilliant or ridiculous, but it's crazy and it's entertaining as anything. I had the exact same expression on my face as him. I do think the movie's tone varies a lot. At times it's so serious, but then other times things can get super wacky. And there are some goofy performances from extras and minor characters. I can't always tell if the acting is goofy on purpose, or if it's serious acting that just comes across to me as goofy. I suppose that's humorous in and of itself, intended or not. That said, some of the intentional comic relief is actually funny, and you know I don't feel that way about the comic relief in all of these movies. Oh, and I'm sure some fans get a chuckle out of what seems to be a sly reference to Godzilla 98. I did also want to mention that GMK relates back to the '54 movie in a few unique visual ways, with that sequence on the island where Godzilla came ashore before while a storm was raging, the near shot-for-shot imitation of the moment where Godzilla looks over the hill, and the flashback sequence set during the 1954 attack with a somber, slowed-down version of Godzilla's theme that I didn't pick up on when I first saw the scene. There's actually a lot I didn't pick up on in the first viewing. Some of this is kind of embarrassing, like, was I fully paying attention? Like, I didn't realize at first that the images in the opening titles, which are pretty awesome, are extreme close-ups of the different kaiju. It took me a while to put together that the naval commander at the military meetings was also Yuri's father, and the man in the opening scene. I didn't realize what exactly I was looking at in the scenes where the old man visits a hibernating Ghidorah in the cave, and I didn't realize that the girl in the hospital screaming that Godzilla's coming is the same girl who was on the island that Godzilla attacked. Those hospital scenes make so much more sense to me now. So there's an endorsement for watching the movie twice. Since this is a really popular movie, a frequent favorite among fans, the second highest rated one on IMDb, I'm sure that some of my viewers have seen it not just twice, but many times. I am very curious to hear what you all have to say about it, so go ahead and leave your own thoughts on it in the comments below. I hope that you enjoyed this review and that you'll stay tuned for the next one, which should hopefully be coming along in the next few weeks. Thanks for watching!